Liquor Talk, another new episode starts now. The second new episode of season 10. We're back at it, y'all. Remember, this is the podcast where we don't just sip liquor, where we have conversations that stir the culture while sipping on some good drink, whatever you sipping on. Shout out to everybody that's tuned in, having a drink with us on today's episode, whether you're tuned in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts at. My guest is coming to me from a state I did not think there were black people. But this man is the host of the Delicious Culture podcast out of Vermont. It's Mr. John, man. John, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Nice to have me. Well, I mean, thank you for having me on. I was about to say, nice to have me on, but no, nice to meet you is what I meant to say.
Yes, man. Let's talk about it. So tell me about the Delicious Culture podcast.
Yeah, so lately we have been centering the podcast around getting to know guests through three questions. I want to know what's a delicious meal you've had lately, what's a delicious piece of pop culture you've been consuming lately, and what's a delicious thing that has happened in your life lately. So yeah, I mean, if you want, I mean, you could answer those three questions on the spot right now, Victor.
Since you put me on the spot, okay, the delicious thing I've been taking is, TikTok, the black creators on TikTok, and the different recaps of all of the mess that goes on. So, TikTok, when you just be scrolling, and I'll be at work sometimes, just be scrolling, watching videos, and it's just a whole bunch of messy, but things that we didn't know about that went on, like in the 90s and the 80s and the 2000s. And even now, there's so much that we never knew about. And,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What's an example? I'm curious. What comes to mind for you?
what comes to mind is how dumb these criminals are, like how dumb rappers are. Because I don't know if you saw the Pooh Shiesty case, but like, bro, you can't strong arm somebody to try to get out of a deal that you should have done your homework on. Because sometimes I see a lot of young rappers, they sign some bad deals. They don't know that they're bad deals at the time, but then by the time they realize it's a bad deal, it's like there's no way to get out of it, and you trying to strong arm somebody all while wearing an ankle monitor. It's like some of these criminals, they're dumb. Like, you just ask them to go back to jail.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not too familiar with the Pooh Shiesty case. Can you give me more background on that? Like, what exactly, like, what kind of bad deal did he get himself into?
So basically, he was signed to a rapper. He was signed to Gucci Man. And basically, he was trying to get out of his deal because he looked at the contract and realized that it was a bad deal. So him, his dad, and a couple of people, they set up a meeting with Gucci Man, and they basically they hold Gucci hostage until he signs his release. But what he doesn't realize is, under duress, guess what? The documents can get thrown out.
Oh, really? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
so basically you signed a bad deal and you're trying to get out of it, and you think by strong arming somebody, now you can get out of it, but that's not the case. That's not how it works.
So is Pooh Shiesty a rapper like that Gucci Mane took on? Is that what I'm getting at or no?
Yes. He's a rapper that Gucci Man he was signed under Gucci Man, and
Under his label. Okay.
basically now he's looking at the deal and it's like it's kind of a bad deal he signed. And that's what all them rappers, honestly, that don't really do their homework
Yeah.
on their music career. I know you trying to get your music career off, but you gotta do your homework on what you're signing before you put pen to paper. Because once you put pen to paper, it's like very hard to get out of.
Yeah, I mean rappers, singers, I mean pretty much anybody, any musician getting into the industry. Like we've seen all the documentaries. Like if you don't read the fine print on the contract, like as you're signing it, you could get screwed because when you're new and up and coming, like these executives can find a way to take advantage of you because you're desperate, you're hungry, you're trying to get your start, and they can take advantage of that. So it's up to the musician, it's up to their management to read the fine print before they sign, because once you sign on the dotted line, that's it. You don't really have much of a case.
You don't have much of a case, and then you only make things worse when you try to force this person, hold this person hostage until they sign your release forms. And now you're like creating a jail case for yourself because you're doing this while a couple, or you and someone else have ankle monitors on, and I'm like, how stupid are you?
Yeah, yeah, and forget about your reputation in the industry after that, because now you're just being known as someone who, instead of like going by the fine print and going by a handshake, you just think that resorting to threats is the way to get what you want, and I don't know if that's a good reputation to have in the industry.
It's not, because it's like it's not a good way to have, and also it's gonna be more jail. You're going back to jail because the crazy thing is you just got out a few months ago, but now you're going right back.
So, how long was Pusheisty in jail previously, and what was he in jail for?
I'm not quite sure what he was in jail for, but I think it was a weapons charge.
Right.
But I know he was in jail for like a good number of years. The years ain't coming to me right now. So, but he was in jail for a while, and then I'm like, now you're going right back. And he was released on house arrest. I believe it was like house arrest for a few months. So, and I'm like, bruh, you just got out, man. Come on.
Well,
And
I
that,
miss jail so much, I'm gonna get back in.
you miss jail so much, you want to get back in. That's sad.
Yeah.
And you said the food question, right? You said something about what's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah. Like what I usually ask my guests on my podcast what's a delicious meal that they've had lately. So what recently did you eat where you were like, oh my god, that was so delicious?
it was a crab boil. You know, I'm in Florida, and you know Florida is a place where you get good seafood, and I went to I think it's called dummy crab, I believe it's called, and
Okay.
it's like you can eat seafood and crabs and crab boils on that. It was really good. I was surprised how good it was.
So crab boil, is that exactly what it sounds like? It's just you boil crab and then you eat it like that. You eat it boiled and steamed.
You eat boiled and steamed. You got seafood, you got eggs, you got sausage. It's so many things coming to a crab boil, and it's also spicy as well. So it's
Okay.
like so many different things. I don't know, like they do great in Louisiana. They hit and also in Maryland as well.
Nice, nice. Is there like a nice crunch to that crab, or is it just more of like a softer chew since it's boiled?
It's like a softer chew since it's boiled with a lot of flavor. And it's up to you how spicy it can get.
Hmm, nice. I've never tried. I don't think I've ever tried crab. Maybe like crab bites or some kind of crab casserole, but I've never had like a crab boil. So that's definitely something on my to do list.
Yeah, definitely gotta check it out. And what was your last one?
My last one was what is a delicious thing that's happened in your life lately? Like a positive event that's happened in your life.
A delicious event I will say is the Liquor Talk website is about ready to launch real soon.
Nice.
Like I said, I'll get to have that website launched probably by the end of this month. I'm working on a few things, and so that's something delicious that's gonna happen. So now, way people can have a direct access to everything, what I'm about, what the podcast is about, what I'm about in my speaking profile, how to get in touch with me, how to sign up, guests, all that stuff. Because going to networking events, people always ask you, "Oh, what you're about," and I just present some. It's all right here on the website.
That's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cause like, and I know because I was at a networking event recently in New York City, God, back in January. And the challenge that you encounter is like how to be energetic and social and friendly with everybody, but also not exhausted because you like could easily end up repeating yourself. Like, all right, my podcast is about this, this, and this. Okay, next person, my podcast is about this, this, and this. Like, so it's nice to be able to, like you said, say, hey, nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself. And oh, you want to find out more about my podcast? Here's my website. You can find out more information. You can find out if you want to be on the podcast from there. So I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Can I ask what it was the inspiration behind the name Liquor Talk? Because I like that. Is it just like based on the vibe that you have with friends, sitting down, having a drink, you're loose and having a nice, fun chat? Is that what it is?
It's all about like is that, and also sometimes you have like some real heartfelt, heart to heart conversations while sipping on some liquor,
Yeah.
and it's like you have really tough. You really have the tough questions. You get the tough, And what I found is sipping on some liquor just loosens your inhibitions. It means you can have easier conversations. You have what I also found in college is I had a lot of heartfelt, heart to heart conversations with somebody while we're sipping on some like vodka or sipping on some whiskey, and it's like thoughts you normally wouldn't say sober come out when you have a little buzz in you. You don't have to get all the way drunk. So that was the inspiration behind Liquor Talk.
So have you actually, I mean, just to be clear for the audience, we're not liquored up right now, but like, have you had guests uh, on this podcast and you've actually like drank liquor with them? And if
That's
so,
how we do it. That's exactly how we do it. And sometimes some I guess they are poured up. They be poured up whether in California. I've even had somebody in Italy getting poured up, or in England and different places, all getting poured up. And most times, like I know a lot for like season 9 and also in season 8, we were doing it in person and having drinks in person. We'd just have drinks in the studio and we'd be a good time, but we wouldn't get super buzzed. But we'd have some drinks.
okay, yeah, because I wonder, like, at what point does it get to be like, maybe you're having trouble forming thoughts and having trouble forming sentences. So, because I remember going to a live podcast in
Mhm.
Atlanta, and it was their first live podcast, and they were like, "Yeah, let's bring out people, let's have drinks," and the host really got drunk and lost control of the whole thing. And all of a sudden, someone's just crying and talking about their dead relative, and I'm like, "Oh, this is not the direction that I thought that this was going to go." So that's why I always wonder about podcasts that use alcohol. Is like, all right, where's the line between like fun and like, oh shit, like we're now just going insane.
Yeah, everything responsibly. That's why I tell everybody everything responsibly, unless it's like one of them episodes where we were just going for a long time. But I've never had that happen where we just get so drunk and just where we lose control of everything. And as the host, you gotta stay. You can get a little buzz, but you can't let yourself get drunk because who's in control of the show? You are. So that's why I'm like, that's why I'll let my people if they want to get drunk and buzz and hammered, have at it. But I'm a sip with you, but I gotta keep direction of the show.
Yeah, you got to keep the momentum moving. You got to keep the control moving. Now I feel self conscious because I like you didn't ask me to bring a drink on, and I'm like, oh crap, should I have like a beer or something?
You know what? I should have said that. That's on me.
That's
I
okay.
need to put that in disclaimer, y'all. Hey, sip was come have a drink with me. But nevertheless, so tell me more about your podcast. Since you got me spilling the guts on liquor talk. So tell me more about the delicious culture. What was the inspiration and how did y'all get started?
Well, I mean, I have been podcasting for almost 6 years, and I've gone through a couple other versions of podcasting. So when I first started podcasting, I was still working in commercial radio, and that podcast was essentially an extension of that. It was very much influenced by what you hear on morning shows on like traditional commercial radio stations, that fun banter, like, hey, here's some headlines, here's some jokes, here's some pop culture commentary, here's some celebrity commentary, here's a musical guest, blah blah blah. So that was called the Anything Show, and I
Mm-hmm.
did that for a couple, probably like 3 years. And then I decided to transition into a 90s rewatch podcast, kind of relating to the 90s conversation that we're about to have, because all of a sudden, like, I saw all these podcasts like Pod Meets World, which recaps one of my favorite 90s sitcoms, Boy Meets World. And I thought, oh, that could be fun. So me and a co-host I had at the time, AJ Vandertunt, we decided to recap one of our favorite shows from childhood, Family Matters, and we did that for a couple of years. And once it was recognized that that was not sustainable for the long run, because it is a show that can be very problematic and certainly annoying on the Steve Urkel front, we decided to transition to the delicious culture. And initially it was more of a generic, like, oh, let's talk about pop culture, let's talk about what's in the news. But then as my former co-host AJ Vandertunt no longer became a part of the podcast, along the way I decided to just sort of revamp it into what it is now, which is talking about things that are easy to talk about with strangers, which is food, pop culture, and lifestyle. So it's a combination of all those three. Anybody can tell you about what they ate and why they loved it, and recommending it to somebody else. Everybody can talk about what TV show and movie and music that they're watching and loving and they're consuming. And everybody can certainly talk about a great thing that's happening in their personal life, something that uplifts them, whether it be a graduation, a new baby, a new job. So I think once I figured out like those three elements, I decided to just combine it. And there you have it, the delicious culture. So that's where I am right now with the podcast. And it's been fun. It's been fun. I've been getting to know a variety of people. I've been getting to know a variety of foods and pop cultures and people's lifestyles. And I look forward to having more guests. Maybe Victor, you can come on the podcast at some point and talk more about you. But yeah, that's essentially it. It's just getting to know people through what they eat, what they watch, what they listen to, and how they live.
That's real. Hey, you just give me a time of day and I'm there. You just give me
Yeah.
a time of day, you email me the link and I'll be there, So I definitely got you on that end. So in all your years of podcasts, what is something you wish you would have done differently that you recommend to young podcasters who are just now starting? Because it's 2026. You're going to have those people that they start their podcast this year, and then you have some that are going to hesitate and they may not start until the end of the year or so. But what's some advice you want to give to people that you wish you would have known before you got started?
Well, I think two things come to mind. One, I definitely wish I got into podcasting when a lot of people didn't get into it, because right now
Same here.
everybody and their grandmother has a podcast. But once upon a time, back in 2011 is when I first discovered podcasts. And this is how long ago it was. I discovered them through my iPod. Like I don't know. I think I was like looking up stuff on iTunes one day, and I discovered like, oh, okay, there's these things called podcasts. So let me like download up some episodes of like the Adam Carolla show and the Mark Maron podcast, like the early podcasts. Let me download them into my iPod and then listen to them at this very boring medical records job that I had at the time. And I was captivated by it, but I thought, oh, this seems like a very complicated thing to produce and put out there, so I could never do it. Let me just kind of stick to what I know, which is like producing college radio shows, because I was like 19, 20 at the time. And if I had known that it was pretty simple to produce a radio show essentially for the internet, that's what a podcast is, and put it out there. Like now we have these platforms like Spotify for creators, Buzzsprout, these distribution platforms that make it so easy for your podcast to be distributed everywhere. Had I known that it was not going to be that complicated at the time to put a podcast out there, I definitely would have started like as early as 2011 when I discovered it, just so that like, you're in a space that not many people are in, and then you could like more easily thrive based on that. So I guess to relate that to young podcasters of today, if you see something that you think could go somewhere that you're passionate about, but doesn't really have much of an audience yet, but you think there's something there, follow that gut instinct. You could be at the forefront of whatever new innovation, new invention that comes out. Or that becomes popular in the next 10 or 20 years. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I wish that, because I feel like right now with the delicious culture, this is probably the best example of a podcast that I truly want to do, as opposed to a podcast where it's like, all right, I kind of want to do it, but I also want an audience. And I felt like with the Delicious Recap, which was the Family Matters Recap podcast, a lot of that was, oh, rewatch podcasts are the thing. Everybody likes 90s rewatch podcasts. I want to get an audience. So let me do it largely because of that. And I found out within 2 years that that wasn't sustainable. So just knowing for any young podcasters out there that the only way it's going to work for you is if you produce an idea that you genuinely love, that you're genuinely passionate about, that speaks to you, and lead with that. And trust me, whatever you're doing, there will be an audience for it. It may take a long time to find them, but literally the great thing about podcasting is that you could talk about anything and there will be an audience for it. So as long as you love what you're doing, as long as it's true to you, do it, and the audience will eventually come. So those are my two pieces of advice.
Of course, that is well said, my brother. I definitely appreciate it, y'all. And any of y'all listening out there, I hope y'all took some notes because that was some well spoken advice. Because, like you, I wish I would have known about podcasting in college too. Because it's like I found out about it. I found out about a podcast my last year of college. I didn't fully investigate it until years later, and I'm like, if I had got started in college, man, I'd be so further along. But things happen for a reason, though, you know. And you're in the right space at the right time, y'all. So it is what it is.
What year did you get into podcasting?
I got into podcasting into 2018, and
Before me.
yeah, I found out about it in 2014, 2015. I think a mentor of mine was telling me about it because he was showing me on the album because he had an iPhone and podcasts were starting to pop up on iPhones, and
Yeah.
he was showing me how there are different radio shows. And then one day I investigated. I'm like, damn, that seems like that's not like it might be like you. I thought it might be complicated to produce until. But then I didn't investigate it until after I got done with college because I still had the itch to get on the mic and talk about some things. So I found out about podcasts, and then 18, here we are.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just insane, like how much time passes by when you like procrastinate on something. Because again, like I started listening to podcasts in 2011, and it wasn't until 2020 where I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Like I'm gonna actually figure out how to put a podcast out there. So yeah, I mean, definitely like as soon as like you discover something and it speaks to you and you want to figure out how to do it yourself, like just get on it. Like don't procrastinate on it. Don't think that there's no way you can do it. No, there's definitely a way that you can make it happen. So so definitely make it happen. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great that you eventually discovered it and you're doing your podcast as well as you're doing it. So that's wonderful.
Yes. So always people, even my other advice, y'all start it and just ask questions later. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Liquor Talk. The more you drink, the better we sound. Shout out everybody that's tuned in on air wherever you're listening at. Whether you're listening in Florida, whether you're listening in Kansas, where you're listening all around the world, wherever you're listening, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for having a drink with me on this podcast. John, what is your favorite thing to drink when you go to a bar?
God, man, I rarely drink. I can't remember the last time I drank. You know what? I'm gonna say I love a frozen margarita at a Mexican restaurant.
Ooh, that's good.
I'm a softie for the sugary fruity drinks. I'm not the stereotypical guy that does like the hard liquor, like the whiskey and whatnot. Any chance that I have to go to a Mexican restaurant and get like a big meal, like a burrito and some chips and salsa, love to wash it down with a nice frozen margarita.
Yes, that. Oh, you hit the nail on the part, y'all. Hey, y'all, that's the drink of the week, by the way. You know what? A frozen margarita from your favorite Mexican spots because them Mexican spots they hit differently. They take care of you, man. Listen, they got the drink, they got the food, and the good frozen margarita, and it's about to be hot too. So yes, a good frozen margarita it does the job all the time. So. Definitely get on that. So on one of your last episodes, you talked about why do marriages fail, and I'm like, it's so many different things that culminate in marriages failing. So tell me a little bit more about that episode and what was your overall thoughts on why marriages fail.
Well, thank you for listening to that. So you're mentioning the episode that I did with relationship expert Jackie Dorman, and she's been successful at quite a bit of marriages. I think like over 1,600 marriages she helped coordinate and put together. And we also got a chance to talk about Love is Blind. I don't know if you know that Netflix dating reality show, which essentially is you're meeting someone without seeing them and you're choosing to get married with them without seeing them yet. So so it was a great conversation. And yeah, I think the particular moment in that episode that you were talking about is Jackie stating the common reasons why marriages fall apart. And it's because of infatuation. Like if you are, I don't know, say for example, strongly obsessed with the physical appearance of this person or the fact that both of you are bonding over the same childhood trauma, like if that's just like really like gets you going to the point where you just can't let it go and just gives you this like constant source of adrenaline, there's only there's only you can only go down from there.
Hmm.
I mean, it sounds simple, but like actually taking the time to get to know the person, form a chemistry, form a bond, see if there's a wider, more varied palette of things you guys can talk about, whether it be politics or what you think about family and what you think about children and things like that. Rather than just like this one thing, like, oh my God, like, this person's eyes and the way they look in that dress. And like, so she really gave me a good lesson on how infatuation, aka short-term feelings, can lead to long-term consequence, which is you could get divorced really soon and just have that on your record for the rest of your life. So I don't know. That's kind of in a nutshell what we were talking about. Well, one
Yeah.
of the things that we were talking about in that episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel all that, and also those people on Love Is Blind, they gotta be crazy to go in there to just marry somebody randomly. You don't know them. Them people are crazy. They can have that. But another thing I would love to add on to that is people don't want to put in the work, and it's like it takes work to build on something. It's like, yeah, you have a spark, but you got to keep building on it because
Yeah.
there are gonna be some days where you hate this person, but you got to continue for the long haul because and also it goes back to what you said about physical attraction and stuff because looks fade away. You gotta get to know this person personally, like where they're at mentally, like where they're at spiritually. You gotta get to know them, really put in the work. And a lot of people in today's generation, they don't want to put in the work. They just want the marriage for the title, and then they just want to get divorced when they ain't working out instead of staying and fighting through this thing. Now, our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, they stayed in some situations and they worked through them. Now, are there some cases they should have left? Yeah, but for the most part, some of them they stayed and worked through those things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we've seen every study and heard every study about how, like, younger generations. I don't. How old are you?
I'm 35.
35. I'm 34. Okay, so we're both millennials.
Yeah.
So our generation and the younger ones, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, so on and so forth. Basically, I think anybody younger than Gen X, so the millennials and on,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're getting married later. We're not staying in relationships as long. We're maybe not even starting relationships. We're not even thinking about having children. We're maybe having children later. We're just doing everything that's so against our generation of parents, which could be the Gen X, the boomers, the World War II generation. Because, like you said, I mean, you have some couples that have been with each other 50, 60, 70 years. Maybe they got like 9, 10 kids that they popped out. And yeah, they've been through some shit. And you can tell that they have a lot of days where they get on each other's nerves and can't stand each other. But um, I think back in the day, marriage was held at a higher pedestal. It was like, no, when you sign this, this is your life. This person is your life. This is a contract for life. And I don't know what it was, but I think that somewhere along the way we started to just get more comfortable with the idea of like, prenups, divorce. Like, yeah, I say at the altar that I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, but if they irritate me in this way or that way, or if I'm caught cheating, blah, 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 like, yeah, it's going to be a lot of money to divorce them. But either way, there's an out. Um, and I don't know. I guess there's just something about the older generations where they weren't thinking of that. They just had more of a pure, long term, serious idea about marriage. And maybe that's why, even through thick and thin, like you see these couples that have been with each other, from like the age of 16 to the age of 89. And, there you go.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous long time. And another thing they didn't have is they didn't have technology, because
Yeah.
guess grandpa and grandpa didn't have technology to go look at other people. But guess what? It's right there on your phone. You got instant access. You got dating apps.
Yeah.
You got everything to make connections outside of your bond. So that way, if somebody say not messing up, is instead of working it out, they're like on to the next one. It's a sad state we're in.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We have a lot more options with technology. I mean, my God, you look on your phone and it's like, hey, like you could possibly match with these 25,000 women or men in your area. And back in the days when there wasn't that technology, it was literally like, get out of the house and maybe you'll find someone at school, maybe you'll find someone in your neighborhood. You just had a lot less options to work with, and I think there's something to be said about less is more. The more less and conciseness that you have in terms of options, maybe the better you are at seeking out your partner, maybe the more patient you are at building something with them. But yeah, man, I mean, with the 25 billion options that we have on these online dating apps, and couple that with the low attention span, that leads to a short amount of patience. I mean, yeah, I feel like a lot of dating nowadays is, oh, you don't like the Patriots like I do? Swipe right.
Pretty much. Or you find somebody, they got 3 or 4 kids or 5 kids, swipe right, swipe
Yeah.
left. It's like I feel like also our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, they found reasons to stay with this person and to ride it out. Our generation, we see one wrong thing and we ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, I'm married. I've been married to my wife for a few years, so I'm glad that I found my person. But before I met her, I feel like I was. It came from both ends. So I definitely met somebody. The Patriots example, that's actually a real life example. Like literally, I was talking to somebody on a dating app, and they were clearly very passionate about football and made it seem like, all right, if you don't like it as passionately as I do, then this is not going to work. And I was just like, all right, well, let's just move on, because I don't know if we have much to talk about, because I'm not a football person. I'm not much of a sports person. So there's that. But I also feel like I yeah, it's probably a big understandable thing to reject somebody for, but there was somebody that was very religious, and I mean, I grew up in a religious family. I grew up Christian, but I don't affiliate with that anymore. And I was turned off by like I'm like I could be open to religious people, but I think when you wear it as like almost like you're a mascot for it, like you're bragging about how religious you are and you have verses all over the place, like that's where it becomes okay, a little bit intense for me. Let me swipe and move on to somebody that's a little bit more moderate. So yeah, I would say I could be guilty of like you know jumping to conclusions, maybe having only talked to this person for a few sentences. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense because I've done the same thing. I've realized somebody is either talking about the church a lot, but I'm like, you sit in my head, I'm like, you probably one of them people that's heavy in the church, but yet on Monday or Tuesday, you might cuss the waitress out at Denny's because because I found that some religious people they can contradict themselves because they're like the Bible this, the Bible that on Sunday, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday they raising hell, cussing people out, and they're doing everything unholy. Like, and then on Sunday they want to sit there and judge. So, and I feel you on that because I've done the same thing a few sentences in. Like I've talked to a lady with kids, and she spent half the damn time telling me everything she like to do with her kids and stuff, and making it sound like you really need to be involved. I'm like, ma'am, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, fuck them kids. I'm here for you, The kids will come later. I got to establish a bond with you before I get to know your kids. But some people don't see it like that.
Yeah, yeah. I get that. I mean, I understand where she's coming from, where like the kids are an important part of her life, and that's definitely a deal breaker if you're not with the kids. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm if I'm going to be getting into this, it's because we have a bond, and if we don't have a bond, then what am I doing with these kids?
For real. For real. That's what it is. So, but hey, be blessed that you're married. And I hope that you fight for your marriage, unlike some people, because there's some people they okay with getting divorced, but I'm like, you know what? Ain't nothing out here, so you might as well just stay with the fight. Fight the long fight, because you said I do for a reason. That's to all my married people out there listening to this. Remember, you said I do for a reason. Remember that reason and fight with everything you got, y'all.
Yeah, I would say uh if it's very clear that you found your person and that you could work it out, yeah, do what you can to fight for the marriage. I mean, yeah, I will say, I mean, there are definitely marriages that should have never happened in the first place, and people just, I don't know, they just um they lose their bond either, through affairs, or there just isn't much in common to talk about. Like there could be various reasons why marriages can fall apart, and if it prevents any toxicity between the two people, and certainly if it's better for the kids for the couple to not be married, then that is understandable. But in the case of me and my wife, I mean, we're very lucky in that we are in agreement on a lot of things, and we've both had experience with therapy, and so we know the value of, like, talking things out and expressing our feelings as much as we can about what we think about something. So yeah, there's just a lot of reasons why we work, and yeah, like any marriage, we're gonna have our not so great days, but thankfully, we know the value of, like, let's talk this through. Let's talk it out, and let's figure out how we can come to a compromise, because that's marriage. Marriage is a compromise.
It's one big compromise, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Liquor Talk. The more you drink, the better we sound. I hope y'all point up those drinks and enjoying this conversation. All right, John, let's get to the reason I brought you on, because I knew I had to talk to you after watching this documentary on Hulu about talk shows in the 90s and how those shows were the wild, wild west, man. You had so much crap going on those shows, and then you look back at it 30 years later, you're like, they couldn't do half that shit today, man. On talk shows in the 90s, because they were just wild and reckless, because they started off first like conservatively just having basic conversations, but then once they saw those ratings weren't really doing nothing, then it became all hell broke loose because of the damn ratings, because they trying to keep up with the ratings and they don't want to lose them sponsorship dollars. So what are your thoughts on talk shows in the 90s?
Well, I guess it just depends on, like, the specific talk shows you mean. I mean, I don't know.
Springer, Gerardo at Large, Montel. You know how they bring them, they fly them people out to New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, wherever they're paying, wherever they record, and they are having these people spill their guts or release confessions, and then Gerardo at Large, we saw a whole fight go down between the white nationalists and some black people, some like Black Panthers, not Black Panthers, but
Yeah,
some black psychologists. You saw a whole fight go down. Man broke his nose,
yeah,
and those kind of shows.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and that was time in the '90s, and you specifically, you're talking about, like, the daytime trash
Mm-hmm.
TV, tabloidy kind of talk shows. Um, yeah, it had its time. In particular, I think Jerry Springer was the one that really kicked it off in '91, because Jerry, if you remember, like, he started out as a pretty bland talk
He
show,
did.
kind of like a Phil Donahue, where, I don't know, topic could be something like abortion or whatever, just a fairly safe topic that shouldn't, like, really arouse much of anything. And then he would take questions from the audience like Phil Donahue did, and that wasn't getting any traction. And then, I don't know, somewhere along the way, Jerry found his niche with, like, hey, let's, like, have a transvestite and a horse, like, duke it out on national TV. Let's
Oh,
have people
that's
throwing chairs at each other and women, like, flashing their titties, like, uh and that worked for Jerry for a long time, all
it
the
worked
people in
for
the audience.
It worked
Yeah.
for Maury. It worked for Sally Jesse Raphael. And there was another lady, I think her name was Jenny Jones, I believe. I think her show got canceled when she had a guest come on and they revealed a confession. And then those people go back to their home, to wherever they're from, and one of them kills somebody. I'm like, and then the show
Jesus.
wasn't even found liable. And then the same shit happened with Jerry Springer. And guess what? They managed to get off the hook too. And I'm like, this lady lost her damn talk show over this, and Jerry Springer managed to get off scot free. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I remember watching the Jerry Springer documentary on Netflix a while ago, and they did mention that I can't remember what it was, but it was like, oh, these guests were on the show, and maybe it was like a couple or a former couple, and one of them just got crazy and like murdered the other person.
Other person because you flew them to tell them something, confess something on national TV because you didn't have it in you to say it without without the cameras and rolling. And I look at some of them situations, I'm like, y'all could have just talked this out at home. Why the hell you felt like you needed to do this? But guess what? I think they wanted the money. You know, they wanted
Yeah.
I guess with some of them they want the money, and some of them I could tell that they had never left home.
Yeah. Yeah, no. A lot of people on that Jerry Springer show, you definitely get the sense that they have like this sort of like small trailer park world, and they don't get much information and much civility from the outside world. Um, I actually went to a taping of both Jerry Springer and Steve Wilkos back in college with some friends. Um,
How did that go?
Oh, I look, and to be clear, like I never was an avid fan of any of these shows. It was just one of those things where, you flip through the channels during the day, maybe you're home from school for the summer or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, Jerry Springer's on, and blah blah blah. Maybe my grandmother would watch one of these shows, but it is one of those things where like a college friend of mine at the time, he was like, "Oh yeah, I got these tickets to see Jerry Springer," and because like I originally come from Connecticut, and that's where Jerry Springer, Maury, Steve Wilkos, like I believe it was like at the NBC Universal building in Stamford, Connecticut. I think the WWE headquarters are there as well. So um I went to Eastern Connecticut State University in Willimantic, Connecticut. So somehow we got like a bus to take us to Stanford, and we got free tickets to both Jerry Springer and Steve Wilkos, and it was what you'd expect. I mean, we saw a woman flash her titties for some beads, and we saw people fighting, and we saw the crowd chanting Jerry, 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 and then Steve Wilkos was what you would expect, which was a much more serious sort of Oprah style introspective, like, oh, tell us about how you feel and let's see you cry and yada yada yada.
Steve Wilkos, it was about, and he was about holding people accountable and throwing chairs. Stand up for me, get up and throwing those chairs and stuff. I'm like, damn, Steve, you more mad than the chick that you getting on him. I'm like, man, it's like that's why I'm looking at some of these guys like, why is Steve more mad than you are?
Right. So to see him go from that on Jerry Springer to like his more like toned down, more serious show, it was quite something. But yeah, no, I if you get an opportunity to see those shows in person, I mean, would you go? I wanted to go because it was like to see a train wreck live, it's irresistible.
It was, if I had opportunity to go back then, I would have definitely gone just for the shits, because I remember when I was younger, I think I was home. I told my mom I wouldn't mind having my own talk show. She was like, just please don't have one similar to either Jerry Springer or Maury. Oh, Maury, watching Maury Povich with my family, they were always like, them girls will always be yelling at Maury. I'm like, he's right there. Why are you yelling at him?
Right.
Another one, it was just a wild, wild west too, where you don't know what you can get. You might one day it's you ain't the father or you are the father. Woman bringing on 50 different men. I'm like, ma'am, you don't know who this baby dad is, and yet you bring on, and then you have the cheaters. Somebody reveal themselves to be cheating. Oh, you tell you done with them, right? And then we see 3 months later you come back because you took them back. I'm like, you fucking idiot.
Yep.
Because how you get caught, how you manage to catch this person, yet you decide to give them another chance, and now you on the Mars show.
Yeah. Well, these idiots are perfect for addicting TV.
Yes, they were, and at one point I thought about having something for them, but then I remember one thing: they signed on the dotted line, to be on television. They agreed to this stuff, so it's like. I'm like, well, y'all that damn desperate for attention to now have your life just being exposed before social. This was before social media too, so this was our reality TV. Now today, you can just scroll through TikTok or social media, and you got people telling on themselves all the time. You don't even need Maury or Jerry Springer for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. In a way, those trash TV shows is a precursor to what we have on the internet today, because you don't have to look far on the internet to find the kind of personalities that you saw on those talk shows there. And in some cases, uh, Maury, Jerry Springer. I mean, you can see clips of them on TikTok. I mean,
Hmm.
my wife was watching Judge Judy on like TikTok and Facebook Reels, and it's that kind of content like that, like, oh, we're gonna grab your attention by having someone like Judy, who's just this no nonsense, like, I'm not gonna take any shit kind of personality, and pair her up with these stupid people that she's hearing a case for. Like, yeah, you put that up as a short clip, and of course you'll get dozens of comments and engagement and blah blah blah. So it goes both ways. It goes both ways. I mean, this kind of content is what led to a lot of what we see on the internet, and then you repurpose this kind of old content from the 90s and put it on the internet today, and it still hits just as well.
Yeah, because you had Judge Judy, you had Judge Joe Brown, you had the People's Court,
Yeah,
and I learned you better not talk back to them judges. You better not be disrespectful to them judges
yeah,
because they're quick to kick you out. And then you had Divorce Court, which was just as messy. And I'm like, man, you know what? If you gonna go on them court shows, you better go in there with some respect for the judges because them judges had no problem in showing you the door. Judge Mathis be cracking me. Judge Brown and Judge Mathis be cracking me up too because they'll sit
yeah.
there and clown you on the bench while I tell your cases denied. They will sit there and just clown you and just act shit that's not even relevant to the damn case.
Right, 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 right. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, yeah. So many of these shows. I mean, and I think Steve Harvey, even Steve Harvey and Jerry Springer, they both had courtroom shows for like a minute.
They
They were both
did.
judges. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They did. I ain't take either one of them seriously, but because they weren't really. That's not what they were known for. So I didn't really take either one of them seriously. And it was always somewhat of a happy ending at the end of them too. Well, at least in Steve's case. Now I remember seeing Judge Jerry Springer as a judge briefly. I'm like, I don't know, man. I think I take you seriously when you were doing the Jerry Springer show because that's the only thing coming to my mind. But all that stuff, man. I really don't think that they could get away with half those things today, man. You notice in the pop culture podcast, you notice that they couldn't get away with half that shit today.
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, I don't think that, say, a white nationalist, was that the white nationalist that was punching Geraldo Rivera in the nose? Was he the one that did that?
Yeah, that was it. It was a whole melee where I think they had to be shut down for a while, and Rivera got his nose busted on the show. He still did the show. I said, respect to him, man, because
Yeah.
got his nose busted. He's still doing the show.
So back then, I mean, that was just par for the course. Like, okay, this is sensationalist TV. This is just what we see every day. But now, yeah, I'm willing to bet that Geraldo and his producers would be criticized for trivializing and making a tabloid spectacle about something as serious as white supremacy. So,
Mm,
um, and and yeah, I mean, Jerry Springer. I mean, where do you begin? I mean, he's dead, so he can't be punished for anything really. But um, yeah, I mean, uh, the I mean, I'm sure there's been a lot of people of color that have displayed negative stereotypes associated with people of color on TV, like black couples fighting and getting into it and cursing out, and just yeah, just not great representations of people of color, I think. And yeah, I mean, and Maury, who's the father? Who's the that I mean, how many people of color that we've seen there that have been subject to that, and the stereotype being that oh, black people have too many children and they're not going to be responsible for them, and black fathers are going to leave them, and yada yada yada. I mean, it was that
yeah.
basically that terrible stereotype that Bill Cosby brought up in a not so great way. So
Yeah,
yeah,
the Cosby Show. I mean, the Cosby Show, and you had Fresh Prince that were like positive, but after a while, those shows kind of ran its course, and then that's when we got into all the stereotypes with had Martin as well, had Living Single. Like, Friends is a definite spinoff of Living Single. They got the idea from for Living Single.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, they got the idea for Friends from watching Living Single. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
amazing how black culture started so much shit.
Yeah, yeah, it's always black culture that starts it, and then white people take it, claim it. as their own in some respects. Sometimes they give credit, but either way, white people take it and they make it an actual successful mainstream thing. And yeah, Friends and Living Single, that's a great example because
Of course.
Living Single revolutionized this concept of 20-something friends living in apartments in New York, that era in your life where your friends are your family and you're going about, being young and in the city and exciting, working this job and then going out with your friends after and, blah, blah, blah. And literally an NBC executive named Warren Littlefield looked at Living Single back in 1993 and said, wow, like I need a show like that on my network, because Living Single was on the Fox network, not NBC. And then literally the next year, Friends came on and became a lot more successful. They got a lot more advertising. They got all the billboards. They got the better soundstage. While Living Single, like they were on like this not so great ranchy area in the same Warner Brothers lot. So that's sad because I think I would have loved a world that where Living Single was a lot more successful than Friends.
I would love that too, and it's sad that black folks can show you that we do a lot with a little, and we still don't get those representation, especially on our TV shows. Like we're getting canceled and stuff, and in Living Color, it's like then that was another one as well that Living Cover paved the way for the modern Super Bowl shows we know it today, because
the
like,
halftime show. Yeah.
They always show in Living Cover during the halftime show. The NFL said enough of this. I think the very next year in Living Cover, did numbers. The next year they had Michael Jackson at the Super Bowl. I'm like, it took all y'all that time to have Michael Jackson at the Super Bowl because of the black. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so insane to believe because like the Super Bowl halftime show as we know it, we think that, it's always been, these big music superstars like your Beyonce or your Prince or your Michael Jackson perform. But no, like it is insane to believe that the first Super Bowl was in like the 1960s and it wasn't until 1993 or 4 with Michael Jackson. I think Michael Jackson was 93, but either way, it was the early 90s. It took them 30 years to craft the halftime show as we know it today, because literally for those first 30 years, it was just some boring marching band, maybe ballerina dancer. Like it was literally something out of a high school pep rally. That was what the halftime show used to be. And then, and Living Color decided, because I think they were hot at the time. It was like maybe 92 or so. They were like, you know what? We don't have the Super Bowl on the Fox network, but like, fuck it. Let's, let's create our own fun show for Super Bowl Sunday. And I guess, the network that had the Super Bowl at the time were just like, wait, what the fuck? Why are all these viewers going to the Fox network to watch the In Living Color show? And yeah, as you had mentioned, Michael Jackson, the next year, they were just like, fuck it, we're gonna like actually make the halftime show a place where people want to go. And from there, every year the biggest pop stars in the world are on that show.
Pop stars every year is crazy. And then here's some people that turned it down, but hey, I think they turned down because you don't get paid for it. But hey, you get the spectacle. Your numbers, streams shoot up after doing the Super Bowl show. It's crazy.
And then you get more money in your pocket because of like that increase in streams and record sales. So technically the NFL could just be like, hey, you know what, we are kind of paying you by the exposure that you're getting. Like we're not paying you directly, but the exposure that you'll get, I mean, watch your royalties increase overnight from being exposed on the halftime show. That's pretty much the payment there.
Pretty much, because it's like over 1 billion people watching. Now, the last 90s show or early 2000 show, America's Next Top Model, I'm like, oh my goodness, this had all the damn tea in it. And it's like, and I don't know if you saw that documentary, but I'm like, wow. And in my head, I'm like, Tyra took no accountability. And it's just, I looked at all this shit, I'm like, you could not get away with that shit today. The shit they were pulling and that they were airing, you could not get away with that because somebody would be checking your ass about that, man.
Yeah. I know that I had my wife Tony on the Delicious Culture podcast a few episodes ago. I think we touched on the documentary briefly, and then maybe I did on another episode as well, but definitely with my wife Tony, we talked about it a little bit. I think shortly before it came out. And yeah, we watched the documentary together. And yeah, like you said, I mean, my God, because I was always aware of America's Next Top Model growing up, like through the promos that they would show on TV, like, but I had
Mm-hmm.
never like actually watched the show. And this documentary gave me a good idea of what the show was back then and what was accepted. And the idea that you had like these competitions among the models where it's like, hey, like you may be like authentically black, but you're going to be Asian for the day. And this is going to be a modeling competition
Yeah.
game. So changing races. And then I think there was one where they like did a photo shoot as homeless people. They did a photo shoot as like people that got shot, and literally one of the models that were in that photo shoot, like she
Yeah.
actually had that traumatic situation happen to
Yeah,
her.
I think her mom got shot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and this is crazy. And then there was one where the models were being sexually harassed and
Yeah.
nobody was, yeah, the chick was, she literally stopped it to complain about it. And they're like, can you just still do it? I'm like, bruh, tell this, why aren't you telling this dude to get out, man, if he gonna be perverted and stuff? Like, and then they had the one where the models actually hung out with some guys, and then one of the models actually cheated on her man because they got so inebriated and so drunk, and then they want to put the camera in the face while she calling him confessing. I'm like, you had no privacy. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah. I mean, so with that situation, she was sexually assaulted. I mean, she was
Yeah.
drunk. She was not in a position where she could give consent. But unfortunately, because of what was going on at the time, the narrative, everything, Tyra, the producers, maybe they knew there was sexual assault, but they didn't want to have that reputation slapped on their show. So they reframed the narrative as, oh, this model cheated on her boyfriend,
Right.
and let's try to make her feel better about that. And then you have the scene where she's crying with her boyfriend on the phone as he's calling her a bitch for cheating on. But that's not the narrative. The narrative was that she was sexually assaulted and no one was coming to her defense. So yeah.
And then another thing I noticed is like, for the models, it's like they had no careers after, because Tyra made it sound like, oh, we're gonna prepare you to have a career. But I'm like, ma'am, you knew that these models, no modeling agency would take them seriously. Yet you still put the show on anyway. And I'm like, wow, way to slap somebody in the face for everything they went through just to realize no modeling agency will hire them or take them seriously.
Yeah, it's very conflicting because I remember Tyra saying to a model like, "Oh, like, you know, I, no agency is going to hire you if you have this gap in your teeth or if you have this imperfection on your face,
Mm-hmm.
yada yada yada." But at the same time, as you had mentioned, I think yeah, Tyra should have. I think there was a little part of Tyra that was aware that there was a negative stigma attached to reality shows at the time. Like, to be on a reality show trying to be a model means that you're just an attention seeker, you're not serious, you're just trying to get famous really quickly without putting in the work. So yeah, because of that reputation associated with reality shows, the models were struggling. Nobody wanted to take them on because they weren't seen as like a model with talent. They were seen as, oh yeah, you're that person that just signed up for America's Next Top Model to get rich and famous quick, and now you expect us to just take you. I mean, it's kind of the same thing, probably the same reason why a lot of American Idols, you don't hear from them again.
That's true.
Because of just that stigma of like, oh yeah, you're on that singing competition, you're on that show where they literally make an entire episode out of like the goofiest auditions and yada yada yada. Whereas there are people not involved in these shows who are hustling, who are working their ways to the clubs, the bars, the little recital halls, that like they're actually putting in the work to build their brand, to build their musicianship. And yeah, so it's easy to look at people who just want to get on national TV really quickly and make a spectacle out of themselves and see and say about those people, yeah, no, they're just crass.
I realized that's also the same with any reality competition, like even the cooking shows. Because I remember I saw something about Hell's Kitchen. One of the Hell's Kitchen winners mentioned that, hey, it ain't what it's cracked up to be. It's like, oh, you're just showing as the face. You're not actually in the kitchen cooking. So it's
Yeah.
like it's crazy that people thought back then you could get on a reality show and then have opportunities lining up for you, but in reality that wasn't the case. But now going back to America's Next Top Model for a minute, I wanted to have sympathy for the judges and for them just for Tyra not really talking to them and all that stuff. I want to have the empathy for people. But I realized one thing. They all signed on the dotted line. They knew what the hell was going on back then. But now they talk about this documentary like trying to have sympathy. They want to have empathy for want America to have empathy in telling your story. It's like, I get you telling your story, but it kind of sounds like you want our sympathy for what you went through, but you signed up for it though.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because like I definitely believe in looking back and saying, "Oh, I fucked up and I want to learn from this and be better as a human being."
Hmm.
Um I think the judges did better in showcasing that they want to be better people and they want to learn from mistakes
Yeah.
than Tyra. Like Tyra, to go back to that, like she really had this inauthentic, media trained, scripted, ingenuine quality about the way she was talking about the
Yeah,
experience
I
with that model at
noticed
the
that
time.
too. Her and that producer both sound the same. They were deflecting the whole time. It's like I think this documentary would have been better had Tyra and the producer been more vulnerable about telling their side of the story of what's really going on, because I did hear it in the judges that they sounded very vulnerable and about everything that happened that transpired in there. They sound like they had a little remorse for what happened, but I didn't get that from Tyra. It sounded like Tyra was trying to. It sounded like a money grab for Tyra, for being honest, because I
Yeah.
heard about the little ice cream venture failing.
Yeah, the ice cream venture. Oh god. And the fact that she's bringing back Top Model, that's what she said in the documentary, that she plans to bring it back, and I'm like, "Oh god, if you're not even at least taking accountability for all the terrible shit that you put on that show back in the day, like how can we move forward?" You know?
How the hell? And I'm like, and I saw that. I'm like, how the hell you gonna do that in this culture? Because you can't get away with having all the shit you pulled back 20 years ago. You can't get away with that shit now.
Yeah, forcing people to have medical procedures that should have nothing to do with a cosmetic thing. Models being a model, like it's all cosmetic. It's all about, the
Yeah.
hair, the outfit, like unfortunately the weight, the figure, like, and to
Mm-hmm.
just say to someone like, no, you need to close in that gap, or you need to get that, you need to get these new teeth, and then you see like the after effects of people uh
Yeah.
dealing with that procedure. It's just like, yeah, it's it's terrible. It really can put a number on your self-esteem to be
It
told
can.
that.
And also, I feel like with those people, like sometimes you gotta stand on business and say no. And if it's like, and if that's why I gotta do this, because you should have known that America's Next Top Model's not what's cracked up. If you get eliminated, so what? Because you still have your pride, you still have your self dignity, you still have those things by just saying no and standing on business. But I really feel like those people, if they had known that back then, they would have, not agreed to get the teeth done or do the boob job or whatever job they gotta do. No, no. If it goes against what I believe in, then I'm not doing it. I don't care what you think, because you
Right.
gotta have that confidence within yourself to know that I'm gonna make it, and if I really believe in something, everything else will fall into place. And as long as I'm willing to put in the work. But I see back then they just wanted that quick fix, and they were just like, okay, Tyra's the expert, and Tyra, they just going by her word instead of instead of standing 10 toes down.
Well, I think if there's no blueprint for effective leadership, like an effective role model to say, stand up for yourself, do what's right, don't do what's wrong for you. Um, if you don't have an example of that, then everybody's just going to sort of follow with whatever the herd mentality is. So back then, there was nobody saying, okay, it's fucked up that models are changing races for competition or posing as homeless people or getting gaps in their teeth fixed. The thinking was like, oh, if you want to be in this business, like the superiors, your mentors, do whatever they tell you, and if you don't do what they tell you, then you're worthless and you're not cut out for the business. So I think it was very easy for these young, and believe me, young developing minds, because I think you have to be a certain age to like have a lot more dignity and independence and be able to say, no, I'm not doing this. But yeah, no, when you're of a certain age and you really want something like to be the next top supermodel, yeah, unfortunately, like these women, they had the mindset of we're going to do whatever it takes, and if it means degrading ourselves, essentially, then we'll have to do it. And I think it just took the passage of time and looking back through this documentary 20 years later to realize, oh yeah, no, I didn't really need to do that to prove myself.
Yeah, you really didn't need to do that. Speaking of times, what is a '90s show or early 2000s show that you wish that you think they should consider rebooting? Because you saw with Fresh Prince, they had the Bel Air spinoff on Peacock, So, there any other '90s or early 2000s show that you think that could prosper in today's times?
I mean, I was a big fan of The West Wing, which was a really great political drama from Aaron Sorkin that was on the air from like 99 to 2006. Um, I don't think there's any interest for them to do a reboot, but I think if they did, especially with today's like very toxic, heavy political climate, I think with the brilliant mind of Aaron Sorkin, with his brilliant writing, I think they could really do a good job to write a West Wing for the climate of today. So that's probably a show. I mean, there's a lot of reboots where I don't think it's necessary, where it's clearly a cash grab, but like something like The West Wing, where it's like really, it could be really relevant and touching to today's headlines. I think that could be a good reboot.
Yeah, I remember seeing The West Wing. I think that could be one, but we got a president in office who's insecure, wouldn't be too happy about that show coming back. So,
and look, all the more reason to put it out there. Whatever makes him more insecure, let's put it out there, and obviously that'll get a lot of viewers because people will be curious, like, oh, what's this show? What's the latest show that President Trump is ranting about on through social?
Yeah, he's spent more time ranting about this damn show than to do something about these damn gas prices, man. Oh, yeah. So that would be one I would definitely say I'll definitely feel you on. And another one I would think should come back. I wouldn't mind seeing the cartoon come back, like the Boondocks, because I'm like, hey, that'd be crazy in today's times because it's a black writer, and I know he can adjust for today's times, because I'm like, y'all can't be letting Tyler Perry have all the work now, have all the damn black sitcoms,
Yeah, and me and my former co-host AJ Vandertunt, and also in a more recent episode where I talked about the movie Sinners with my sister Natalie and her friend Diane on the Delicious Culture podcast, we had plenty to say about Tyler Perry and the complicated legacy that he has with the Black community. Because, like, while I am so happy for his success as a Black creator, as a Black man, being able to go as far as he has, given where he came from with, his childhood abuses and struggles and stuff like that. It's great. It's inspiring. But yeah, to go back to you, I mean, I think to have him be like the key representation of Black content, no, because there is some valid criticism of what his content has done to sort of reinforce stereotypes about Black people, and certainly like him like largely writing all the content himself and not having any additional help with the writer's room. I mean, you can definitely see it quality wise on some of the movies and TV shows he's released. So to have as many different Black voices as possible, such as like the one from the Boondocks, I mean, yeah, I mean, God, being Black in America today, like with the whole Trump MAGA movement, I can only imagine like what great content we could get out of the Boondocks if they were still on the air today.
That, and also I want to see some more content from Ryan Coogler. Now, I think Sinners should have won every fucking award, man. I'm happy they were nominated, but I need to have seen them win all of the awards. And I wish they could have had a whole series on the spinoffs of the vampires in the '90s, or how they, because they kind of fast forward time at the end of it, but they could have had a whole series on it. They could have had a whole series, but he decided to keep it at one movie, which respect his decision, because that movie was awesome, man.
It was great. It was great. I'm so happy it was made. I'm so happy it had the financial success and the critical success that it had. I'm so happy that it got the recognition that it had at the Oscars, because like I remember Sinners came out last year and it had its moment, and then it went away. It seemed like people forgot about it for a little bit. And then once like award season started ramping up, like end of last year, beginning of this year, that's when Sinners suddenly was like, in the news again, and it became the most Oscar nominated movie ever. And at the ceremony, look, I mean, I loved One Battle After Another, also a great movie, but I think just for the sake of, Black people, Black content, Black creators, what it would have meant to the Black community, I, like you, would have loved to have seen Sinners win everything. I was pulling for it to win Best Picture, Best Director for Ryan Coogler. It did win Best Actor for Michael B. Jordan, and I mean, I've said on the Delicious Culture podcast previously on the Sinners episode, I did say that I'm not too crazy about Michael B. Jordan's acting, but I do think he's a wonderful human being, and I think he just happens to be in really great movies that I will continue to see, despite whatever mixed feelings I may have about his abilities as an actor. I know that woman won for cinematography for Sinners, so even though Sinners didn't win everything, it did win a decent amount, and
Yeah.
yeah. Did you see Michael B. Jordan going to In-N-Out, that burger spot in LA after he won?
You so fucking humble, man.
Yeah, man of the people.
Respect it, man. I really respect the fact that he's still a human being after. I respect it, because most other Oscars winners, they would probably either DoorDash it or have their assistant go get it for them. No, he want to be with the people, man. I respect that, and we're gonna manifest that kind of success for both of our platforms, to where we're successful, but we still with the people. We still with the shits, We don't forget where we come from. So he kind of like seeing things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He could have clearly gone to like some really bougie, like fancy Vanity Fair party with all the other celebrities afterwards, but I just love the sort of average human beingness of being like, you know what? I just accomplished something really big. I want to celebrate with a burger. Like I have the appetite to go to my favorite fast food spot in LA. I'm going to go there with my Oscar. I'm going to munch on a burger. Like that's just great. I love that.
That really was great. I definitely agree with you there. So what is the plans for the what can the people expect from the Delicious Culture coming up in this year?
Well, I want to be out there networking more. So look out for me, fellow podcasters. Maybe I'll see you at an event, Victor. I mean, I know that there's big events like Podcast Movement in New York City coming up in September. Podfest Expo in Orlando in January. I know there was a podcast event in Charlotte, North Carolina, maybe like August, September. So yeah, look out for me at any one of those podcast networking events if you're a fellow podcaster. In terms of the content for the Delicious Culture itself, as we are recording this, I just finished editing an episode with host of the Unapologetically Overcoming podcast, Jess Marie. She does a great podcast where she allows people to share their stories about, more serious topics. So usually traumatic things, like people who want to share about mental health and grief, things like that. But we have a lighthearted conversation, me and Jess, about, our our noticing of moms being into fillet of fish sandwiches from McDonald's. And Jess tells me about a really nice pork belly bite sweet potato meal that she had at this restaurant in upstate New York. And she talks about a nice podcast where she hears from these moms. She's a mom as well, Jess, and she hears from these moms that talk about experiences that they have as moms being judged, for things like smoking marijuana, or their sex life and how they keep it going even as moms. So look out for that episode with Jess Marie. That's going to be coming out soon. Delicious Culture with John Francois, wherever you get your podcasts. We talk about it all. Like I said, food, pop culture, lifestyle. I want to know what keeps you buzzing.
And lastly, John, get you out here on this. Why should people subscribe to the Delicious Culture podcast?
Why should they subscribe?
Yeah, why should they?
Oh, well, because, if there's something that it makes the world go around that we can all talk about without fighting with each other, it's what we like to eat. So that's one. And we certainly can use pop culture, TV shows, movies, music, plays. I mean, I think that with the depressingness of the world right now, we're definitely leaning on pop culture as like an escape route. Like, here's a temporary escape. Here's a leap into a fantasy world where we're not talking about Trump. And again, like, positive things happening in people's lives. Yes, it sucks that we're paying higher gas prices than we should because of a war that we don't need to be in. Yes, it sucks that a lot of us don't have health insurance because we can't afford it, because Obamacare subsidies are not a thing. But at the same time, that doesn't stop positive things from happening in our lives. Maybe, again, your daughter aced her math homework test, or you went to a fantastic movie, or you spent a great night in New York City with friends, or you watched your favorite reality show, or whatever. I don't know. You went to a graduation, you went to a concert that you love so much. Jess, oh my goodness, this white suburban mom from upstate New York, she's a big fan of Lil Wayne, as I find out, and we talk about that on the podcast. So she's talking about going to see Lil Wayne in Saratoga Springs, New York this summer. So even though the world sucks right now with all the political shit going on, there's still positive things that keep us going, that are happening in our lives. So I think, as a collective, food, pop culture, lifestyle, I think the Delicious Culture should be subscribed to, because it is a reminder that good things can still happen in our world.
Of course. John, I want to thank you for blessing the Liquor Talk with your presence. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for the vibes. And whenever you're ready for me to come on and return the favor, I might be in Florida, but I'm just one DM away, my brother.
There you go. Yeah, that's the great thing about podcasts now. You can do it all remote. So from Vermont to Florida, I'll definitely have you on the podcast soon, and we'll talk everything, man. I can't wait.
Yes, I can't wait either. And thank you to listeners for listening to another edition of the Liquor Talk podcast. Tune in wherever you get your podcasts at. What did you think of this episode? And remember to go try a drink, y'all. Go get you a frozen margarita. Have about 2 of them for me, and have another one for John as well, for being here, for tuning into this episode. Wherever you tuned in, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or you're watching us on YouTube or on TikTok. Until the next episode, we're out this thing, y'all. Peace.